Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go again.
Here we go again. Exactly. Something I really wanted to ask you is a little bit of Sam Davis' origin story,
Mm.
like before USC and growing up in Michigan. I mean, the funny thing about, filmmakers and people that come to Hollywood is most everybody that works in the industry come from somewhere else. So
Mm.
what was growing up in Michigan like? What was your movie going experience and your movie making experience?
That's a good question and a new one. Um, I yeah, I grew up in a really small town in Michigan. Graduated with like 45 kids. Uh, it was I had a good upbringing, but I wasn't steeped in art growing up. I just happened to have really supportive parents who encouraged me to, I grew up drawing actually up until I was 12 or so. And then I got my hands on a camera because in quintessential sort of cliche Midwestern upbringing fashion, my dad was a high school football coach. So he had the program's video camera and a closet. And I got my hands on that and sort of never put it down. Started making films when I was 12 or 13. They were terrible, of course. Um, and actually, one of the first films I tried to make was a war movie, and I rounded up like 20 kids from the neighborhood and I lived in the country, but they all came out and with like makeshift military fatigues and guns and the first shot was at a creek and I fell down the sort of riverbank into the water with the camera and ruined the football program's camera. And my dad was so angry, and I spent the entire summer mowing lawns to purchase a new camera for the football program. So anyway, but it was I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker from the time I was 12 or so, and kind of never never thought twice, and eventually worked on a movie when I happened to be graduating from high school around the time that Michigan had big film tax incentives before Atlanta became the hub that it is. Um, there was a 41% tax break. So suddenly all these productions were
Wow.
coming to my backyard. And I was a kid growing up wanting to make movies. It was like too good to be true. So I got to work on a couple of films there, and that was my first real exposure to the film industry. And that was formative. And shortly after that, I moved to LA, just kind of took a big leap and yeah, drove out here and have been just continuing to work toward that dream ever since.
I love that. Like
Is
it,
that
like I said, it's such a classic story because
yeah,
you people think, you come from Hollywood or Los Angeles and then you're just in the industry, and it's really
right.
not. It's everybody comes from everywhere else to
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, and I still am self-conscious actually around a lot of my filmmaker friends and because I'm not a cinephile. There's so many movies that collaborators and friends are referencing all the time still. And this is post film school and living in LA for 12 years, and I still feel like I'm still learning, but I think my approach to movie making is much more instinctual than it is as sort of a student of cinema. um so I'm still,
I like
I saw
that.
The Godfather for the first time when I was at USC at 23 years old. People were like,
Yeah.
"Are you kidding? You haven't seen?" And I was like, "No, I grew up. My dad's a football coach. I grew up on a dirt road in Michigan. We didn't watch The Godfather." So,
Have you had to do the Letterbox 4 on a red carpet yet?
mm-mm.
Oh, you better
Thank
get
God.
ready. Get ready because it'll
Oh,
happen, and then you're going to
s-
feel
s-
trapped.
stress me out, Eric.
I know. All right, let's get to the singers. I'm curious where you came to it. If it was
Mm-hmm.
directly with uh, Ivan Turgenev's story, or
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think it's
George
George
Saunders.
Saunders. Where,
Yeah.
how did you come to it?
Yeah, I read it in George Saunders' book, and I dozed off a couple times as I was reading the story because I was reading it late at night, and it's like I don't know if you've read it, but it's really dense and slow, and yeah, I was bored by it the first time I read it. But there's this switch that happens sort of midway through the story where you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's something really cool and unexpected happening here, which is these crusty, sort of sad men in a bar about to like form a fleeting, but I think powerful connection, via
Yeah,
song. And so that, that sparked with me. And then it was that coupled with what happened the next moment, which was I was going to sleep. So I glanced at my phone. I always look at my phone before I go to bed. It's a habit I've been trying to break, but um, I like look at Instagram or whatever. And luckily that night I failed my I did. I looked at my phone and the first video was of Mike Young, who plays the bartender busking in the subway station in New York. And I just immediately flashed on him as sort of a genius hiding in plain sight in a modern retelling of that story. And oh, what if we, and then started the ideas, start to cascade. And what if we fill up a whole bar with these sort of unexpected, unsung voices from around the world and who we find on social media? And I was sort of off to the races. It was one of those nights where I have an idea and then it snowballs and then I don't sleep and most of them don't lead to anything actually except for like sleep deprivation, but this one stuck.
well, that's a great segue. Let's talk about your cast because it's such a really great mix of professional and
Mm-hmm.
non-professional singers.
Mm-hmm.
How were what did they merge together? Because you have like I said, The Voice and
Mm-hmm.
America's Got Talent, and then Subway Singers. How did they work
Right.
together?
Yeah, well, I think that the thing that most of them have in common is even those who, Judah Kelly, for example, was on Australia's Got Talent 2017. He actually won. Um, Mike Young, a Subway singer, also had a moment on America's Got Talent. I think the thing that they have in common though is that for whatever reason they haven't been able to they haven't been solidified as commercially successful artists at least, and we're not hearing them on the radio. But I think that their talents are as special and sort of magnetic as anyone I've heard, and so they're um, no less worth appreciating, even more so in this case. I wanted it to be sort of like this love letter to underdogs or geniuses in the rough, and that's been really special too, to get to um for our entire cast, not even just the singers, but for them to get to see themselves, projected 10 feet tall on a movie theater screen and hear audiences react to them. And none of them had ever expected to be in a movie. Most of them had never even, didn't care to be in a movie. They didn't know that they could act. They didn't care to try to act, but they all took a leap, and I think they all demonstrate a lot of charisma and talent, and just they're all each of them is sort of one of one,
Yeah.
and so it's been really cool to celebrate them. But yeah, I don't know if I fully answered your question there, Eric, but I can rehash if you'd like.
No, was it a like traditional audition process for
No.
them, or did you just reach out and say, "Hey, I have this crazy idea"?
Yeah, it's mostly that. It's like, hey, Oscar nominated filmmaker here. Of course, they think I'm a scammer. Leaving comments and sending DMs on social media, and most of them went unreplied to. There's so many people that never got back to me. Maybe someday they'll see the movie trailer or something and be like, this looks
Wow.
really familiar. But it's a lot like making a documentary. My background being mostly in documentary, I would say to this point. I spend a lot of time doing kind of what journalists do, getting in touch with people, being nosy, and then forming relationships and building trust, mutual trust. And so no, not a traditional audition process whatsoever. None of these people had agents or managers. Some of them didn't even have like email addresses. And that was the type of person we wanted, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, it was I didn't really get to properly audition them. I got to have, calls with them or Zooms with some of them. But yeah, it was a huge risk because we didn't really know how they would react on camera and what their performance ability would be. But I think it helps to have them play themselves and to make the film without a script. I think it's hard for a first-time actor with no training in general to be in a movie, of course, but to perform lines that someone else wrote for them, I think is another layer of challenge. And I don't know. In a documentary, my job is just to set real people up to be as organic as they can be on camera, being themselves. And so that's kind of how I thought about this. How do we pretend as little as possible? You're gonna play yourself. What would you say? Well, what would you say, Mike? And so much of the story, so much of the best parts of the singers emerged out of stuff that came from them, not me. So it really was this sort of clumsy, chaotic, but really fulfilling workflow where everybody was contributing to the writing of the script as we sort of stumbled our way through it.
Yeah, and it's such a I really love the sequence of the cutting back and forth between the little conversations between
Hmm. Hmm.
each people. You have these war veterans having their very specific
Hmm.
conversation. And the snails nails joke is so
Right.
great because you kind of keep coming in and out of it as a joke. It's not just like here's
Yeah,
like
it's
setup
never ending.
punchline. Yeah, it's kind of great. It's very barstool conversations.
That guy is incredible too, and I think the irony of him is he plays like the big dumb idiot in the film, the talentless sort of naysayer, but he has so much acting chops, that he had no idea he had, and we found him on a TikTok video that had like 20 views, and he was in an altercation with some other sort of townies in a hardware store in Arkansas, and I was just like, I gotta have that guy. He's so like he's so combustible. He's like such a great ingredient to add into this soup to just sort of stir the pot. And we called him and we called the hardware store and they were like, "Oh, you mean Muffin?" And they patched us in with Muffin
Yeah.
and he's a farmer and so he was on a tractor while he took the call and he's shouting over the engine of this combine and I just remember him saying, "You want me to do what now?" and uh and we put him on his first plane of his life and he when he
Wow.
came out and I think he adds so much levity and volatility to the story.
It's fantastic. Again, the combination of all of these guys is so eclectic, but
Yeah.
so absolutely natural. I love that. Um, I think I counted over 30 various types of producers on the
Yeah.
singers. Can you talk
Hmm.
about the absolute Herculean effort that it is to get
Yeah.
an 18-minute short film made?
Yeah, and especially I think one of this level of ambition, this just like this film shouldn't exist. It's a bad pitch, I want to adapt a 1850 Russian short story with all first timers from TikTok and shoot it on 35 millimeter film, and it just doesn't make sense at all. And I still sort of have to pinch myself that not only that the movie is Oscar nominated and a Netflix film, but that it exists outside of my head is still crazy. So, but yeah, it took an absolutely dedicated and wonderful sort of mini army of people to will this thing into existence. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's the reason there's not, a project like this is not going to be a money maker. and everybody goes into it knowing that. But people believed that we were doing something original, and that's hard to do today, especially. And really got behind it. And I think that's what it takes to really do something fresh and high quality like this. Not many projects like this exist because it's a financially, especially, it's a bad
Yeah.
bet. Um, and so, yeah, everyone was really in it for the love, and I think they saw the vision, and it's been really special to see it go as far as it has.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about the importance you mentioned the shooting on 35
Mhm.
of shooting on film, and feel free to nerd out as much as you want on that.
Well, yeah, the sort of challenge that I gave myself was, trying to do something that I don't know if I've seen exactly before, and the idea was, could I have the all the things I love about documentary filmmaking, you know, unpolished, untrained personalities, volatile personalities, really spontaneous improvisational performance style, really documentary faces, a script that's just sort of open-ended and flowing, but for all of that chaos to be to be framed in something that feels very almost classically cinematic. And to me, that's film and 35 millimeter film, and so it's shot really kind of intentionally. The camera's almost entirely stationary, very locked down. And yeah, so I wanted to see if I could sort of smash those two sort of disparate sensibilities. Usually documentary stuff is handheld and shaky, and that pairs very well because that's um it's organic. But yeah, that was a challenge, and that and of course all the obvious stuff about just film being magical and timeless, and we wanted the film to feel kind of like a fable or something like that,
Oh yeah.
sort of out of place in time, um and so film just felt aesthetically like the obvious choice.
This is your second Oscar nomination in a new category. And
Mhm.
I saw you and your team's reaction to the nomination, which was
Mhm.
really, really wonderful. But
Back at the bar.
now, yes,
Mhm.
now that you've had some time from that morning, how does it feel within the framework of your career so far?
That's a good question. Um, I think the thing that's really special and sort of affirming for me is I've always been a filmmaker. I think people are starting to notice my work as a director a little bit more now, obviously with the success of The Singers. But from the time from the time I moved to LA and went to film school, and I was a cinematographer, but I was also, directing and co-directing, but I think I've been a part of a lot of really meaningful projects in sort of the lead supporting role, as a producer
Yeah.
or a DP and editor. And so this is kind of my first time having this level of exposure as, more personally as a director. And um yeah, it's overwhelming because in the past have not had to be quite so forward facing. I let Sean or
Yeah.
Rika or one of my other collaborators be sort of the point person, and I'm kind of a naturally shy person, so I don't mind that. Um, but it's good. It feels like a natural evolution, and I'm still a cinematographer. I'm going to continue to shoot films, and I've never thought of that stuff as a stepping stone toward
Mhm.
directing. I think of myself as a filmmaker, and if I can lend something additive to a project that I like in my heart really believe in, whether it's as a director or a producer, whether it's a documentary or narrative, um, then I want to do that. But
Yeah.
it feels really rewarding and sort of a little bit full circle in a way that only happens in movies to like to now have to now have my sort of sort of moment here. It's really special.
That's lovely. I can't wait for people to see it. It'll be on Netflix on February 13th. I love it. I think it's funny and heartwarming, and the ending just kills me. I won't say any more than that, but it is so fantastic. So, and it was really great to talk to you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Always good to bump into you. Will you be at the luncheon on Tuesday?
Uh, um,
TBC.
no, I
Okay.
won't. I won't, but I hope I get to see you before, yeah, like this month. I hope so.
We'll
I think
probably run
so.
into each other at some
I
point
think
if you're
so. We
going to be in
usually do
LA.
just kind of randomly.
Yeah.
So,
All
yeah.
right, we'll hang in there. Enjoy another award season, and
You
I'll
as
see you when I see
well.
you. Thank you for this. Really thoughtful
Yeah.
questions. That was a refreshing interview.
Oh, thank you. All right.
All right.
Bye,
Bye,
Sam.
Eric.